All right, hello and welcome to Results Washington's Reflection Series, where we're highlighting state agency projects from across the state and get to hear highlights, barriers, and lessons learned from the subject matter experts who have been essential to the success of those projects. I'm Samantha Smithingale, and I'm a senior performance advisor here at the Governor's Results Washington team.
Specifically for those with the lower engagement scores.
I love that. So targeting, being very, very intentional there to find where there were those disparities. Absolutely. So how did you solve the problem and what improvements did you see?
Yeah. So we took a new approach to analyzing the engagement data by comparing the responses across different demographic groups. That first step was really all around data exploration. We looked at the responses from, the various groups, people with disabilities, LGBTQ. We looked at differences in race, age, tenure, veteran status. We focused on understanding the disparities rather than just the overall scores. So where was a historically marginalized group different from their non-marginalized counterpart, and by how much, and then the why. So looking at identifying those gaps. And then we also kind of explored intersectionality to see if we could understand, like, what are the additional challenges or unique challenges faced by folks that have multiple identities. I think last was really around that targeted interventions, right? So we conducted listening sessions to learn the why behind the gaps, and then set some specific goals to reduce the disparities and see if we could enhance the overall experience for all our employees.
That's wonderful. So moving to today, right? This work has been going on. You've been able to implement some of these interventions. What's the status of the project today? And what went well? Were you able to create more equitable experiences and outcomes and see growth and change in the survey data?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think the project has had a really lasting impact. I think kind of the biggest or overall is that our division leaders and staff now have more of an awareness of how to apply an equity lens when doing data analysis. I feel like we've upskilled ourselves in using data to create equitable outcomes. But also more tangibly, this work informed several other projects, including one of our most successful is the ESD mentorship program. So we heard in our listening sessions around, like, when we were trying to explore the why behind the gap, was that folks wanted more opportunities for growth and development, and a mentorship program was our answer to how we could
Mhm.
provide that. I think that this project continues to guide our efforts related to a lot of other things, including, um, you know, work around creating equitable and inclusive hiring practices.
Very cool. I am curious. So looking back, what are some of those lessons learned?
That is a really good question. So when I take time to reflect back, I think there are definitely, like, several lessons learned, and there were also, like, a few unexpected challenges. I think the biggest one was probably around, the biggest challenge was around buy-in from staff. I think we heard a lot of folks saying, like, what about me, when the focus was on targeted specific demographics, finding it challenging for people to see how it relates to everyone, even though our
Mhm.
goal was to, enhance the experience for everyone. I think another lesson learned was, for me, was really around, like, the benefit of focusing on doing one thing really well rather than spreading our efforts across all the different ideas and suggestions that we got. Um, yeah. And then, like, this year, we are evolving our approach even more. So instead of solely targeting on specific groups, we're, kind of changing and adopting a new approach around targeted universalism. So looking at the gaps and the disparities, but also saying, instead of just targeting our focus, how can we find a way to create goals and projects and outcomes that will lift everybody up. So to kind of address that challenge of people not being able to see themselves in what we were doing.
Yeah, I love that. It's the rising tide element. Um, so here's another piece, and I'm going to put you on the spot. Is there anything you would have done differently looking back?
I mean, I think anytime I do a project or maybe in anything that I do, there's always things I would do differently next time. I think for this specific one, um, providing more space, time, and energy in listening and hearing from others.
Mhm.
I think there's a benefit to the projects and the tangible things we were able to implement, like the mentorship program. There's also a benefit to just having people be heard, letting their voices be heard. And when we were on like kind of that timeline to say like, okay, how do we learn so that we can do? I wonder if we maybe rushed that part a little more than I would have
Mhm.
liked.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough balance to try to figure out, how to make that space for the people and the relationship and the sort of settling of the project, right? And also make sure that you're able to hit the targets and end up with an end product that is what you had hoped and that will work for folks in a timely manner, right? Because this is old data at the point that you're going and looking through it, and you want to be able to make those improvements in a reasonable amount of time. So I definitely hear you there. So I don't know, is there anything else that you would like to share with us before we go? I really appreciate your time. Maybe it's one piece of advice that comes to mind, or some other really cool nugget you want to make sure anyone listening here is able to take away from your good work at ESD.
Yeah, but that's a really good question. Thank you. Um, I think the one thing I would hope that others take away is that like when you're trying to do something different or trying to look at things in a way that has never been done before, there's always going to be like a certain amount of like resistance to change or challenge to the benefit of trying things other than the way that we've always done them. And so my advice is just to stick with it and to keep moving forward. And we will never get better or evolve or have the benefit of innovation if we don't embrace the challenges that come with trying something from a new perspective or a new way of looking at things.
Absolutely. Here, here. Lean into it, right? Embrace it, and as long as everyone's doing their best, right? Good things can happen. So thank you, Marie, for being here. I appreciate your time and your real world insights. And I know we're going to continue to hear great things from ESD. I look forward to maybe having you or someone from your team back in a future iteration of the Reflection series just to hear more about the mentoring program and each of the next kind of pieces that you're going to be adopting over the next couple of years. So thank you very much. I do have to say that's all we have for today's edition. And I hope you'll check out future episodes as they do drop. If you have a project, anyone, you, Marie, your team, and anyone watching here right now that you think would be really great to highlight in the Reflection series, please reach out to us. We are looking for topics to cover during 2024, and you can email us at results@gov.wa.gov, or you can check out the submission link in the description below. And you can also follow us on LinkedIn. So be sure to do that. We're pretty active on there, sharing about our free conferences throughout the year. We've got our lean and continuous improvement community of practice. We like our long titles here in state government. That's a really great one too. And then you can also hear about the ever fascinating monthly public performance reviews that we put on with the governor and state agency leaders and community members across the state to really dig into super important topics that are real life impacts for Washingtonians. So thank you again, Marie. Thank you everyone who's watching out there on the tubes, and we'll catch y'all next time.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.